I mean, one of my favorite things is to read accounts of like indigenous women from hundreds of years ago and just like their wisdom about how, you know, on these specific days of a woman's menstrual cycle, she will have access to this aspect of her soul and she'll have this new knowledge that she wouldn't have like 4 days later. That kind of
Fascinating.
primal
Yeah.
knowledge is like, it's, you have to shut out all the blue lights to tune into that. So
Yeah.
it's something that I'm really excited for myself to get more interest, into this year. I'm like all about that stuff. So
I think there's knowledge that came from those times that has been lost and it's starting to, be found again. We took this route of where, for example, psychedelics came and we
mhm.
realized that, oh, they kind of open up the pineal gland and they allow for this completely different way to see the world. And
Mm,
I think that, there's been kind of like this, well, then there was pharmaceuticals and they'll solve all of your problems. But really now, if we go back to psychedelics, which are kind of making a turn back
yeah,
around after
totally.
being suppressed for so long, now we're
Totally.
seeing a completely different shift in consciousness through that avenue. So that's super
Yeah.
fascinating too. And these things were, who put those there? Well, how did they,
Right?
they've always been here. So it's interesting.
I love that. Oh, I love that
Yeah.
you put that together because it's you read your bio and it's like mental performance, peak performance, right? It's like all about that. But when you kind of drill into what's going on in the world of Mike, it's like there's so much kind of like ancient wisdom that you're able
Totally.
to help people with. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much to draw upon going back to all that and just understanding consciousness. I mean, that whole thing can be extremely confusing for a lot of people. I mean, scientists don't even have a real definition of it yet. We know
Yeah.
quantum physics and all of these different things, and this is why I just believe the power of manifestation and the power of being able to place your mind in a place and think about something powerfully for and as vividly as you can and just keeping that in your mind. Generally
Mhm.
what I've found is if I do that, things come into my life. I don't know always how they're going to come into my life, but
Yeah.
generally they come into my life in some way. And so I've just
Yeah.
learned that what you repeatedly say to yourself, what you repeatedly hold in your mind over and over generally comes becomes true. And it could be a whole lot of negativity that you're saying to yourself and a whole lot of visions of a future that you don't want or the anxiety of that, or it can be a picture of what you do want. And that's really the biggest shift that I've had in my own life is starting to see my life how I want it to be and
Mm.
holding that vision in my mind and using technology, using modern technology to help me with that, whether that's understanding how to, play with my brainwaves to get me in the right state to be in an alpha state so that I can be calm, relaxed, and focused and creative and be in a theta state
Mm.
where I can reprogram things. And so using,
Yeah.
technology and neuroscience to do that, but also understanding that there is some ancient wisdom there that
Yeah.
we shouldn't neglect, like Ayurvedic medicine. I mean, some of that stuff
Yeah.
is extremely relevant.
Mm.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
integrating it all.
I love that. So when it comes to that, like the negativity space, so imagine somebody is like doing the things, they really are healing, they're kind of thinking about what they want their life to look like. The manifestation is going well, but then there's like a couple of days where they just like fall off the wagon. How do you help people like in those moments kind of get past any sort of shame or disappointment and help them like get back on track?
Personally, the route I've taken more recently is understanding how to optimize your brain function. So, I think like one of some of the basic tenets that we do need to focus on, it's super simple, but it's really so important, which is physical exercise, fitness,
Yeah.
your nutrition, and your
Yep.
sleep. And really just maintaining those kind of three foundational aspects of life can completely change your emotional regulation, your cognitive patterns, your behavioral tendencies. And they may not fix everything, but they're going to start to stabilize a little bit. And then from there, it's
Mm,
understanding, the way I look at things is I take people through what I call a neural mapping, which is understanding what your unconscious patterns are first. So,
mm,
if you have anxiety, if you are emotionally dysregulated, if you are reactive to things and not proactive to things,
mm,
understanding some of those patterns. So, I take people through different assessments and intakes and things like that to help them understand that. So you
Yeah.
have to know what those things are first. I mean, speaking to a professional always helps. It's probably the faster route than try to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But you also can start writing things down. I think journaling is extremely valuable in that sense. You
Yeah.
can, when you put things down, you can start to again dissociate from them and see them from a different angle.
Mm.
And like I said earlier, can help you gain more information and more access to new insights. Um, Once you've understood your unconscious patterns, I think it's important to understand again, do I have an identity misalignment? Do I have
Mm.
limiting beliefs? We didn't talk about limiting beliefs, but those
Oh
are
yeah.
very powerful parts of us where they can completely prevent things from coming into our life. And so those limiting beliefs that we've talked about, self-doubt, fear of failure, being resistant to change because I failed so many times before. And then, even beyond that, once we do start to make those shifts and change those limiting beliefs, now it's about creating more like sustainability and momentum with your
Mm.
progress. So, developing some high performance habits,
Mm.
understanding how to sustain peak cognitive function. Um, so many people just feel like they're always oftentimes underforming their potential. But I think when you understand what your unconscious patterns are, you start to change them through, however you can do that. I actually just made a post today about how to unearth your limiting beliefs, and I think like 7 or 8 questions you can ask yourself to figure out what
Cool.
those limiting beliefs are. Because that people don't know. Oftentimes you don't know what you don't know. You feel like you're blocked, you feel that negative emotion, but you don't know why you have it
Yeah.
oftentimes. So there's some questions you can ask yourself to unearth some of those limiting beliefs, and then understanding how to change them. And all that
Yeah.
is reframing.
Yeah.
We kind of have to look at it with a fresh set of eyes and say, is this really true? And there's so many different processes. I like what is her name? Byron Katie. She has
Yep.
something called the work, the 4 questions.
Yes. The four
I think her
questions.
process, it's super elegant, it's super simple. She does it extremely well. I find that to be very useful. And so, yeah, there's so many different methods to choose from, but I think it's that. I think it's understanding first what your unconscious patterns are, paying attention to them, and
Mm.
it's easy to find sometimes. Where are you not happy?
Yeah.
Where do you feel it misaligned? Where do you feel like something just doesn't feel emotionally right? I think our emotions are a great kind of barometer of whether we're in alignment or not. And I'll say it like
Wow.
this. Let's say you consider kindness as a value you have, and that's
Yeah.
somebody you believe that's part of your identity. I'm a kind person. Well, if you say something kind to somebody and then you get a good response from them, generally it makes you feel good. You're reinforcing that
Yeah.
positive pattern that you believe you're a kind person. It's a good feeling. You get a positive emotion in response.
Yeah.
But when let's say you say something to someone and you weren't exactly mean to them, but maybe they took it the wrong way and they didn't get quite the response, that you thought you would get from them. And, it just, something didn't feel right. And you get this negative emotion from that, right? Maybe regret or
Yep.
guilt because you made them feel bad, even though you didn't mean it. It generally is a kind of, again, a screen to say an assessment that I'm not in alignment right now with what's
Mm.
important. And so, your emotions can be just that. They can be kind of this
Mm.
way to like, am I in alignment right now? If I didn't feel good about that thing, well, then that means there's something that maybe I was violating one of my values.